The car arrives on a Tuesday. Maybe it was delivered. Maybe they drove it off the lot themselves, both hands on the wheel, sitting slightly more upright than usual, checking the mirrors twice at every light. By Wednesday morning, there are seat covers on every seat. A trunk liner is already ordered. They have parked at the far end of every parking lot they have visited in the last 24 hours, choosing the spot farthest from other vehicles, sometimes the spot farthest from the entrance of the building entirely. They walked the extra distance without complaint. They looked back at the car twice before going inside. Nobody asked them to do this. Nobody told them to. They just did it. Automatically, instinctively, as if the car required it. This is not a video about car accessories. It is not about parking habits or seat covers or the particular brand of ceramic coating that costs more than most people's car payments. Those are just symptoms. This is a video about what is actually happening inside the mind of a person who cannot let a new car simply be a car. Because that behavior, the protecting, the positioning, the hovering, reveals something surprisingly deep about how certain people are wired. And once you understand it, you will see it everywhere. Start with the obvious question. Why does a new car trigger this response at all? The answer begins with something psychologists call loss aversion. Research consistently shows that humans feel the pain of losing something roughly twice as intensely as they feel the pleasure of gaining the same thing. A new car sits at the exact peak of its value the moment it is acquired. It is perfect, untouched. It represents every hour of work, every financial decision, every delayed purchase that made it possible. And the person who worked for it knows, somewhere beneath conscious thought, that from this moment forward, it can only be diminished. The first scratch is not just a scratch. It is the end of something, the closing of a window that will never open again. So the protection is not really about the car. It is about holding that window open as long as possible. But loss aversion alone does not explain the full picture. Because not everyone responds to a new car this way. Some people drive off the lot, park normally, and never think twice about it. The people who protect obsessively are operating from something additional, like something more personal. For many of them, the new car represents the first time in their lives they have owned something genuinely expensive and genuinely theirs. Not a hand-me-down, not something inherited or purchased out of necessity. Something chosen, saved for, earned. The emotional weight attached to that is not trivial. When a person has spent months or years working towards something, the object itself becomes loaded with meaning that goes far beyond its function. It stops being a vehicle and starts being evidence. Evidence that the work paid off. Evidence that they are the kind of person who can have this. Damaging it, even slightly, even accidentally, feels like damaging that evidence. Like someone taking a pen to a diploma. There is also a control dimension that is worth examining carefully. Modern life offers very little that a person can truly protect. Relationships are unpredictable. Careers shift without warning. Health changes on a timeline that nobody controls. But a car, in its first weeks, exists in a rare category. It is something that can be kept perfect if the right decisions are made. Every scratch is preventable. Every ding can be avoided. The outcome is not random. It is entirely within reach of the person's own behavior. For someone who carries anxiety about outcomes they cannot control, the new car becomes a proving ground. If I am careful enough, nothing bad will happen. This is a belief that rarely holds in most of life. But in a parking lot, choosing the far corner, it actually works. The car stays perfect. The anxiety is temporarily answered. The behavior gets reinforced. And this is why the protectiveness doesn't always fade after the first few weeks. For some people, it never fades at all. The car stays perpetually new in their mind even as years pass, because the habit of protection was never about the car's condition. It was about maintaining the feeling of being someone who keeps things intact. Now consider the social layer, because this behavior does not happen in isolation. People who protect their new cars are acutely aware of other people in a way that is easy to misread as possessiveness. When someone else reaches for the door handle without looking, they notice. When a passenger puts a bag on the seat without checking what's on the bottom of it, they notice. When someone rests their foot against the center console or leans back hard into the headrest, they notice. And they say nothing, usually. And they absorb it. They manage the internal reaction and keep it contained. This is not pettiness. It is the behavior of someone who has learned that the things they care about are not automatically visible to other people, that what is precious to them will not be treated as precious by default. And so they become vigilant, not to control others, but because they have accepted that if they do not pay attention, nobody else will. This creates a particular kind of person, quietly self-reliant, internally organized, someone who appears calm on the surface while running a constant low-level awareness of their environment. People who know them well sometimes describe them as particular, or careful, or intense about certain things. What they are actually describing is someone who takes their own investments seriously, or in ways that go far beyond cars. There is one more dimension that gets almost no attention, and it is perhaps the most revealing one. The way a person treats a new car is often a direct echo of how they were taught to treat things growing up. Some people who obsessively protect their cars grew up in households where things were scarce, where a broken object was not quickly replaced, where care and maintenance were not just habits, but necessities, where you learned early that things do not last forever, and that how long they last depends entirely on how you treat them. That lesson does not expire. It travels forward into adulthood, into every new purchase, into the far parking spot, and the seat cover ordered on day one. Others learned it differently. They watched a parent who washed the car every Sunday, who kept the interior spotless without being asked, who treated their vehicle with a consistency and pride that seemed disproportionate to outsiders but made complete sense within the household. The behavior was not explained. It was demonstrated, and it was absorbed. In both cases, the protection of the new car is not neurosis. It is inheritance. It is a set of values about care, about respect for what you have, about the relationship between attention and longevity, passed down through gesture and example and lived experience. What looks from the outside like someone who is too precious about a car is usually something else entirely. It is someone who understands that things do not stay new on their own, that everything good requires maintenance, that the gap between something lasting and something degrading is almost always filled by one variable, whether anyone was paying attention. They pay attention. To the car, yes, but also to their work, to their relationships, to the details that most people overlook because most people have not yet learned that details are where things are won and lost. The person parked alone at the edge of the lot, doors clear of other vehicles, walked back twice to check before going inside. From a distance, it looks excessive. Up close, it looks like exactly what it is. Someone who knows what things cost and what they are worth.